Deer.
I've been very nice. Hi.
Chiefs take care of business in an overtime thriller against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. 30-24 overtime victory for the Kansas City Chiefs, rolling on 8-0, continuing their undefeated season, continuing to hold a 2-game lead on the rest of the AFC. I am Kent Swanson here with Matthew Lane. Matthew, big dub for this football team, continuing to stay unbeaten.
Big win, fun game, exciting game, going down to the wire in overtime. Nothing quite like a Monday night overtime game when you're living on the East Coast. This is good. This is good. We like staying up super late for these ones, but at least it's a win, right? It's a win, and I think there's some good positives for this. I mean, I think the Chiefs' offense is starting to come along, so fun stuff to talk about here. But definitely a late one.
Yeah, there's a lot of good in this game. There's a lot of things to discuss in this one. It had everything, right? It had inclement weather. It had an injury scare from Patrick Mahomes. It had offense. It had overtime. It had comebacks. It had DeAndre freaking Hopkins. I think the X factor, one of the big X factors in this game, 8 catches, 86 yards, two touchdowns. I mean, golly, man, there's so much to talk about here. I don't even know. Where do you want to start with this thing?
I mean, you got to start with DeAndre Hopkins, right? Like, it's been a big story for this team this entire time, like going throughout the season, right? You have Hollywood Brown gets injured before the season really starts. Rashee Rice goes down early, and it's about this team trying to figure out, okay, who's going to catch passes? We did this thing last year where we cobbled it all together. Patrick made it work for us the whole time, but at some point in time, like, we got to get him some help, and the Chiefs go out and they go get some help in DeAndre Hopkins. And I mean, even that first week, I think everybody watched it and was like, oh, that's going to work. It's going to work for this team, right? Boy, did anybody see it working quite like this, though? I mean, this quickly? I mean, this was crazy. It felt like anytime they needed a big play down in the red zone where things had been a little tighter for this team this year, it felt like he was the guy, and it looked easy every single time. And then there's a couple big third down plays. So it seemed like the DeAndre Hopkins button was there. They've already figured out, how to press it when they can press it. And even though there was a couple miscommunications still throughout the game, stopping it from being even a better game from him, he kind of took over this game in certain situations. And without him, replacing him with, a lot of different players around the league or anybody else on the roster, I don't know if they come away with this win.
I agree. I tweeted out right after the game, the Chiefs won this game because they acquired DeAndre Hopkins. And DeAndre Hopkins was an absolute X factor in this team. And I think he is just going to continue to get better and better in this offense. But the thing that's so crazy is you already see that there's pretty good chemistry between Patrick Mahomes and DeAndre Hopkins. Obviously, it's still a work in progress. You saw some of the late game situation stuff. They weren't entirely on the same page, but that was the first time that they had not really been on the same page for the entirety of this game. You saw a little bit of play out of structure from DeAndre. You saw Patrick Mahomes just full chest throws, thrown with his chest, like Matty likes to say, on that slant route in the end zone to DeAndre Hopkins. Just
even the first touchdown, yeah, he was very open, but he had to put it up kind of high to clear over the first level of the defenders. There's confidence, not necessarily the ball's going to be turned over, but you got to have confidence in your player to catch that pass because the ball's still elevated. The ball's still going up when you're throwing it to the back, and that kind of throw to the back line. It takes a good pair of hands to bring that ball in, and that's what you get with Hopkins. It's just there was confidence in Mahomes all game long, but I do think a lot of it stems from getting to throw to Travis Kelce and then now DeAndre Hopkins. You're now not just throwing to one guy that you trust to catch any football. You have another guy that you clearly see that trust is building.
I think it's wild. On that first touchdown, they had Travis Kelce
Oh my
front
gosh.
line of the end zone and then popping DeAndre Hopkins behind him on a little
Dude, the play design on that was fantastic.
nasty.
Motioning Hunt out, Mr. Kareem
Going
Hunt out, and
going 4 strong. Yep.
but in a bunch, like a 4 stroke, but like all of them were in tight. And so the way it plays out is you have, I don't know if it was Watson or Gray running like a little just like curl route right to the front line. And then Kelsey goes across the formation. They're pulling all the defenders forward. And then you just leave a corner one-on-one with Hopkins from off coverage against a two-way go. That's an easy win. And now that you've pulled all the coverage away, that backside safety has to choose who to take away. It was a phenomenal play design. When I saw it right away, like on the replay, okay, Hopkins is great here, but this play design from Andy or Matt Nagy or whoever is coming up with this particular play is like, this is kind of nuts.
Yeah, kind of like merging a few different concepts almost that the Chiefs have run into one and building a great little play call and then throwing that slant. But like, hey, look, I think it's even in the in overtime. They throw DeAndre Hopkins has a big catch in overtime too. You throw that out route to him, he makes a guy miss. Oh, and here's the funny thing: when I watched DeAndre Hopkins on that out route, you saw him kind of having that feel with his shoulders, right? He knew what side to spin. He kind
Oh
of
yeah.
had the same thing. It's just like Travis Kelce. You got two guys kind of like this, they're able to have that kind of feel. Man, I
And
mean,
they move the same when they have the ball in their hands right now. They kind of move the same right now.
hey man, I'm glad DeAndre Hopkins is on this football team, and I mean he was such a huge factor in this game. His running mate was Travis Kelce, and between DeAndre Hopkins and Travis Kelce, they had 25 targets on the night. And I mean 22 catches for 186 yards and 2 touchdowns between the two as well. So I mean Travis Kelce, I think he looked pretty good in this game as well, Matthew.
Yeah, I think so. I think you're still seeing like it's different than what it's looked like in the past with Travis Kelce, right? It's never gonna be the same as what it was in his prime. So it does look a little different. And like a couple of these little short plays, the little shovel passes, some of these little designer plays to get him the ball near the line of scrimmage might need to go to a Noah Gray or get scrapped eventually, just because he's not the same yards after the catch runner that he once was. He just doesn't have the same like juice and the same change of direction with the ball in his hands that he once did. But when you're talking about a zone beater, a guy to go win between 8 and 12 yards, Travis Kelce is still right up there. And we've seen these past couple games, like he's got that in him. It's still right there. They're going to keep hitting that button. And you say 25 targets, okay, like that's fine. I don't think I have a problem with it. Looking at the rest of this receiving group, but Justin Watson had a pretty good game actually, for what he is providing. So like, I don't know if I really have much of an issue with the target distribution based on around what we were seeing from some of the other guys. Feed Hopkins, feed Kelce. They're the guys that are catching the ball for the most part. Like, yeah, let them play. And I think those two, the Chiefs are going to continue to play around with aligning them next to each other in the stack and forcing teams to handle that, but then also putting them on opposite sides of the formation, trying to stress teams horizontally. It's just, I think there's a lot they can do with those guys the more they get going. Because even now, Hopkins doesn't know the full playbook. They're pulling him out for relatively important plays from time to time, just because, I don't think, not that he's not ready, but they feel more comfortable with somebody else out there. So like, I think it's only going to get a little better from there.
Quick question for you, Maddie. Do you know who was the ISO receiver when they went to that 4 strong play out of the bunch with DeAndre Hopkins catching the touchdown on the back line? Do you know who the X was? The Y, the X ISO?
I mean, like I'm running through my head. It obviously wasn't Hunt, it wasn't Kelce, it wasn't Hopkins, and I thought that it was Watson that was the other guy on the quad side. On the quad side, I thought Watson was the other guy. So I have no idea who was McCole hurt at the time.
Justin Ross.
Okay, that's right. He was out there a couple times. Yeah,
playing I mean, it kind of makes sense they put him back there because
that was Jody Fortson. That was Jody Fortson before he gets injured.
Hey, if you like your one-on-one, you take it. They put a tiny on him, but I think it was Zion McCollum over there on it. But I just thought that was kind of funny. Yeah. So you see Travis Kelce, DeAndre Hopkins, and you see Kareem Hunt with a 27 carry, 106-yard performance. Gets over the 10-yard mark on a carry in tonight's game, a 15-yard carry.
Two of them.
Closes this game out with a touchdown. Kareem Hunt was look, I think a couple plays he stopped his feet and tried to do a little too much, but man, that dude was falling forward, and that offensive line was absolutely moving people, especially as that game closed out.
It felt like the second half, both the offensive line and then also the Kareem Hunt, just kind of like they're like, hey, this is what we do, right? Like we need to get back into what we do, which is run downhill, and we're going to live 3 to 4 yards at a time. And then what they had been doing in the past was like you would have body blows. The body blows would add up. The Chiefs have been the picture perfect body blows matter for a run game team. And like they didn't really run the ball much in the first half. And I don't know if you could complain too much because I thought Mahomes was playing really good. But then you get to the second half, things stalled a little bit, and they finally say, okay, fine, let's just get back to it. Let's get back to running the ball downhill. We'll take our 3 to 4 yards at a time. But like it quickly started becoming 5 or 6. Like the first half, they were averaging, Kareem Hunt was averaging under 3 yards per carry. And then I don't know what he ended with, but it felt like, nearly every run in that second half and then overtime was going for a little bit more than that. So running hard, the interior offensive line, I think, took it personally, how much trouble they were giving Patrick Mahomes with their pass protection, how little space they made in the run blocking game. I thought they were really good in the second half, especially Trey Smith. He was kind of kicking ass out there in that second half, like especially when they were pulling him around. Nobody wanted to meet him in the hole by the end of the game. So yeah, I mean, that's where this team's offense is always going to fall back. That's their fallback plan, and it was nice to see them have to use it and get into it again for this game.
They were just, I mean, they're running that same play where they're just pulling their motion and Noah Gray across and then pulling Trey Smith there. And like they ran that multiple times late in the game. This offense, man. And like, I think the thing that you got to get a little bit excited about, right, is the offense was pretty ugly. And there was some reasons for the ugliness on that side of the ball. We'll get to some of that, I'm sure, later in the show. But when you look at this offense and what they needed to do, when they were down, they're down 14-10, they're down 17-10. They punted after that kind of rough drive in the first, coming out of the half, right? They get, but 12 play, 70 yards, 15 play, 78 yards. And then, they punt, trying to run the clock out, right? They're trying to close things out. You're playing a little bit more conservative conservative, just like your 4-minute offense. Don't execute. And then, they try that last minute, that drive with 30 seconds left, trying to get a field goal, right? But 3 drives in between all of that, like, so a little bit of situational football that they struggled to execute. They didn't run the football great when they needed to close it out, but that's kind of to be expected. And the Chiefs were going to play that game, and they were comfortable turning around, handing the football off, forcing these timeouts to be used, and then punting for their defense. And then, they had a couple snafus there with that little mini drive trying to get into field goal range at the end of regulation. Other than that, you got 3 just dominant drives. All 3 70 yards or longer. All 3 in double digits for plays run. All 3 taking 5.5 minutes or more, 5 minutes and 52 seconds or longer. They were just surgical when they were kind of in a neutral game script in the second half.
Yeah, I mean, like, it felt like when the Chiefs really had, like, when crunch time got there, and like you said, there was like that little mishap there trying to get into field goal range at the end. But like, if you remove that because of the time and just focus on like everything else, it went pretty well. When they had to come in there in the second half when things got tight, they go on these long drives, and you include the overtime drive. Like, when they had to go back and find the offense they desperately needed in the game to make sure they won, they had it. It kind of looked clean on every single one of those. They maybe didn't look like a quote unquote juggernaut that we are used to, but they looked kind of unstoppable. It looked like the Bucs really had no chance to stop them as they marched down the field and converted third and short after third and short. Oh, we got them in third and medium this time. Doesn't matter. They're converting that. They're doing it on the ground, through the air. It looked like a defense that probably felt a little hopeless. And like, shout out to the Bucs for continuing to fight in this game, because I mean, that team is at a severe talent disadvantage. I don't know if I want to say a lot of breaks went their way, but it felt like early a couple bad breaks for the Chiefs helped the Bucs stay in the game, and then that led to this game being close when the Chiefs once again find a way to close it out, and yet again a different manner than they have a bunch of these other games. So yeah, I mean, it's good. I think we're going to leave this game and say, yeah, the Bucs defense never has been great, but they came to play in this particular game, and the Chiefs still found a way to close it out while also playing maybe their best like offensive game from start to finish of the season.
Yeah. A 27 run, by the way, for the Chiefs to close this thing out. Wait, did you just say you think this was the best offensive performance for the Chiefs this season?
I mean, yeah, it's got to be pretty close to, right? Like, the only game that's probably going to compare to it overall is, the Ravens to start the year?
Yeah. I mean, probably, yeah.
And like that second half offense wasn't great.
And I think the funny thing is it really was mostly just a half of football, but they were just flawless. They just dug deep when they got down 17-10, and they just decided we're going to play perfect football when we need to. And it's kind of that reminder, right, that it's in there when they need it. And like it's kind of frustrating as a Chiefs fan to be watching some of these things sometimes because you know that they can flex that ceiling a lot more. And I think, you hope that the offense, we'll talk about some of the first half offense later in the day, but like this team just dug deep when they needed to be perfect, they were, and they put together 3 absolutely perfect drives. And some of you were there for that. And maybe even a lucky winner was at the 50-yard line for the coin toss. Calling all Chiefs fans, you could be on the field at the 50-yard line inside GEHA Field for the official coin toss at a Chiefs home game this season. Visit chiefs.com/GEHA now. You can enter to win a chance to be on the field for the march to the three-peats. Plus, you can score other exclusive prizes. Enter for a chance to win at chiefs.com/GEHA. GEHA is the proud partner of the Kansas City Chiefs. They are a proud partner of this area. They love this area. They care about this area, and it's cool to see them being part of this community and giving Chiefs fans a really cool opportunity. We've gotten to know GEHA, the fine folks over there, and they're incredible people. And hopefully take advantage of that opportunity.
Imagine getting 2 for 1 value.
Chiefs.com/GEHA. Right? I mean, come on.
Buddy.
Come on. We're going to take a break. We'll be back right after this.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
With big wireless providers, what you see is never what you get. Somewhere between the store and your first month's bill, the price you thought you were paying magically skyrockets. With Mint Mobile, you'll never have to worry about gotchas ever again. When Mint Mobile says $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan, they mean it. To get this new customer offer and your new 3-month premium wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/KCSNpost. That's mintmobile.com/KCSNPOST. Cut your wireless bill to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/KCSNpost. $45 upfront payment required, equivalent to $15 a month. New customers on first 3-month plan only. Speed slower above 40 gigabytes on unlimited plan. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details.
Chiefs win 30-24 against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Not quite the kind of game we were anticipating it being, hoping for a little bit more stress-free football. But the Chiefs still take care of business, and they show some impressive things. They show that winning DNA and the reason that this is an 8-0 football team heading into Denver next week, or against Denver next week. Maddie, one of the other things we really haven't talked about this offense, there's a lot of reasons to wax poetic, but this team was 13 of 19 on third and fourth down, like 12 of 18 on third down, and then 1 of 1 on their fourth down opportunities. Like, and that's, hey, look, you make your money in the red zone, you make your money on third down. This team was making a lot of money today against the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
I mean, I saw this. So yeah, they were phenomenal in this particular game, right? And like, that's essentially what won it for them. Cause even through like some of these stretches where we're talking about how good they were and everything like that, or even when it wasn't looking, as pretty as those long drives on third down, Patrick Mahomes in particular, but this whole team was fantastic. And so I saw this stat during the game. Warren Sharp, Sharp Football had tweeted this out. The Chiefs lead the NFL in third down conversion rate on the season at 54%. It's not just the best rate this year. It's the third best conversion rate through 9 weeks since 2011.
Wow.
Like, that's the rate. I think this offense that everybody's talking about, how they're not been that good this year, how there's something missing. They've been the third best offense since 2011 through the first 9 weeks of a season in terms of their conversion rate. You can imagine it's only going up after this one. And then to take it further, this is a next gen stat thing. Patrick Mahomes went 11 of 13 passing attempts for 126 yards and 3 touchdowns and 10 first downs on third down in this particular game. His 2 incompletions on third down were in the final 3 minutes of regulation. So like those final 2 drives, they didn't really do much on. Like, he was lights out on third downs. The Chiefs continue to be one of, if not the best team on third downs in the NFL. And a lot of that is getting into third and manageable because the aforementioned Kareem Hunt and this offensive line keeps them ahead of the sticks all the time. They try really hard not to take negative plays, but man, like, if you can keep converting at that rate, like, it doesn't matter how ugly or bad your offense is, that's going to keep you in a lot of football games.
And like, I think it's not that and like, I think we need to get away from a little bit of the word ugly. And like, I'm guilty of saying it at times too. It's not the same style of offense that we've seen this team run. And they're just slowly, you know, adding some clubs to the bag, right? Like not taking negative plays and getting yourselves into these very manageable third down situations is kind of the hallmark of the 2024 Chiefs offense. And then taking care of business on third down. It's just impressive what this team is doing in the run game. They're leaning on the best interior offensive line in football. They're running the ball effectively downhill. A lot of teams, they know what's coming and they still can't stop it until the Chiefs have already got 3-4 yards on any given play. Kareem Hunt's doing a great job just getting what's there, falling forward and making it difficult. And like he looked, hey, look, he was those 3-yard carries were more like 5 in overtime. And in the second half, they were looking a lot better there. So just so impressed by this absolute machine of a football team. And that's what they are, man. Like we've talked
ugly
about
might not be fair. Ugly might not be fair for the past couple games. Like, no, you're right. Ugly might not be fair for the past couple games because it's been getting better. I maintain that the offense was ugly for a stretch there earlier in the year.
Yeah.
But these past few weeks, it's been different, but not necessarily ugly. It's physical. It's like you said, they are playing very much I don't want to say ball control. They are just playing a controlling style of football that is trying to limit the risks that they are taking and relying on their best players to execute at a high level and the highest leverage situations. And it's like, that is a little bit of a mind tweak from what this team was in 2018 when Mahomes took over and what everybody mentally is going to be chasing as long as he's in the NFL, because that was just something that nobody had really seen. But these past few weeks, it has not been ugly offense. It's been actually very good offense in some situations. It's just some of those weeks 2 through 5, 6, whatever are probably sticking in a lot of our heads when we say stuff like that.
Yeah, and but like again, like the best team in the National Football League and the scariest team in the National Football League, the Baltimore Ravens, has 3 losses, and the Kansas City Chiefs continue to win. They are 8-0. They have a 4-game lead on the best team in the National Football League, the Baltimore Ravens. But I don't like going to overtime. But I love that this team, like Andy put a challenge in front of this offense, right? He said, we're going to take the ball. We're going to go score in overtime, right? 24-24 on the coin toss instead of leaning on the defense that has just played, outstanding for the majority of the season. They just said, you know what, let's put the ball in the hands of this offense, right? And they didn't disappoint. They went down and they drove the length of the field. And like, I was so appreciative of how Mahomes managed that game. Mahomes had the best game of his season. I think this was the best Mahomes season. He was unbelievable today, and he's been playing really good football. I think the vast majority of the season was some bad, some bad luck. I think with some of the interceptions, but he played out of his mind today. And it wasn't just like, he made really good decisions with the football. He still generates some explosives. He created when he had to, but some of his creativity was just the simple play too, right? That little dump off to Travis Kelce in the flat down there that got him down to the 10-yard line in the drive to close the game out. Just making the smart decision consistently for the entirety of the game. Like it's really hard to beat him. It's really hard to take that guy down, which is why it's insane that Todd Bowles didn't go for 2 at the end of the half. But
what was that decision?
I've got something on that, by the way. Todd Bowles at the podium said he gave, quote, very minor thought to going for 2 after the late touchdown, cited the wet field conditions, thought they could win it in overtime.
Well, he'd be giving very minor thought to anything during the playoffs because he will not be in it.
Wet field conditions. What does that have to do with going for it on 2?
Lance Zierlein also tweeted Tampa was a dead man walking as soon as they kicked the extra point, which I think agree.
The moment we didn't get to see it, right? You just heard the announcers say that they were the kicking units. Baker's coming off the field, the kicking units coming on. You're like, oh wait, like
it was
really?
a quick decision too. Yeah, like it was not like a long, like they were boom kicker going out there. Yeah, crazy.
At that point, I think Tampa had only run maybe 4 plays in the low red, so like maybe they did use trying to get a touchdown there. Maybe they used 1 or 2 of what would have been their 2-point plays, but it's not like they should have emptied the clip of their low red zone plays that they really liked at that point in time either. So it's just. They should have had, I don't know. That decision was crazy.
Yeah. I don't get it. I don't know why you wouldn't take the chance to try to, to slay the giant. And to be fair, like, hey, look, the Chiefs tried to make something happen at the end of the half and almost threw 2 picks at the 50-yard line, right? So, like, I'm not like the ball got put at risk. The closest thing that the Chiefs came to an interception in this game was at the end of regulation at the 50-ish yard line on back-to-back throws, tip ball in the air. But boy, that was probably their best chance of winning that football game, if we're being honest, right?
Their only chance. We've seen this Kansas City Chiefs team take a couple playoff games now, take a couple snaps in the playoffs. What in your ever-loving mind makes you think that your Tampa Bay Buccaneers defense is better than any of these other teams that have literally witnessed the exact same thing? The most surgical march down the field, give you absolutely no hope in your life that you were going to stop it. Oh, wait, no, that's not true. Roughly around the 40-yard line, you're going to get one like 3rd and short that you're going to be like, oh, maybe or a 4th and short, and you're going to be like, oh, maybe we have a chance. And then Mahomes is going to convert it. And you know from that moment on that they are going to go down and score a touchdown. The Bills have seen it. The 49ers have seen it. Like, what makes you think that you're different than them? That decision is crazy. And I think that goes back to, I mean, you were kind of mentioning it. We haven't given, I don't think, enough credit to Mahomes for this performance. And yet we talked about a lot of other pieces, but like, man, this was easily his best game. He avoids the silly turnovers. Yeah, he tried to throw a couple there towards the end of the game, but he avoids the silly turnovers. He makes a lot of impressive throws. He's throwing it confidently with his chest, like you said. He's putting zip on some of these passes into tighter windows than I think we've seen him throw for the majority of this. And even in the first half, when maybe some stuff wasn't looking as smooth as it had, you could see him physically trying to stay in the pocket, trying not to scramble as much, trying to give his offensive line the ability to, I don't want to say earn his trust, but play up to the trust he's giving them. And sometimes it led to sacks and sometimes it didn't, but like you could see him physically trying to stay in the pocket so that he wasn't scrambling all the time and putting everything on his shoulders. And I do think as the game waned on, that kind of play did help. So it's just, I thought he played phenomenal in this game. And I mean, it was one of those like, hey, I don't have the stats of other MVP players right now, but like I probably belong lurking just on the outside of that conversation still.
I don't care. I don't think he cares about the the MVP awards right now either. Like he's just in such a groove right now when it comes to winning football games. And like it's fun to be kind of watching and observing this era of the Chiefs, kind of arc, right? Where we've seen the flashiest fun stuff, but right now they're just taking care of, they're making the right play all the time. And Mahomes is just kind of elevating himself into this like unkillable monster. And like, how demoralizing is it for the National Football League to watch this team take the ball out of overtime, drive down the field, 10 plays, 70 yards, close this thing out. And it's just this, turn around, hand the football off, 5 yards with this demoralizing run game in the interior. Mahomes takes care of business and makes some of these key plays on these third downs. You've got DeAndre Hopkins over there who looks like the DeAndre Hopkins of old again now. Like, man, I've been enjoying this era, man. I've just been enjoying this season and watching this team just kind of, be this just machine that you can't kill. And it's just gotta be painful to watch the for the National Football League to be watching this right now. Tucker, you have a quote from Andy Reid here.
Yeah, I do. Andy Reid on Patrick Mahomes. He might have the loosest ankles in America. Also, this is all of this. What you're talking about is like Mahomes off of an injury too, and like it was a weird non-contact type injury. He did have the ankle on the injury report all week. I think some people feared it was Achilles. I always thought it was ankle. Not a doctor, but like the way that he reacted I think he said it's effed up is what he said. Like if I'm trying to read his lips, but he said it's effed up. And I thought, oh no, this is not good. But then all doing that on a hurt ankle again just proves that these are the good old days, and you can get your These Are the Good Old Days merch. You can celebrate accordingly. Click the link in the bio, shopkcsn.com. Go get everything. These are the good old days. Celebrate accordingly.
Andy Reid said he told Mahomes he was going to take him out, but Mahomes about wanted to fight me.
Yeah, also. that tracks.
I mean, we've seen this before. We've seen this with the knee. We've seen this with the foot in the Jags playoff game.
I think Well, and we can talk about Mahomes, we can talk about Mahomes' injury a little here because, yeah, like the context of all this is like in this game, there's so many things happen. You almost forget about the brief moment where you thought something really bad happened to Patrick Mahomes, ankle, Achilles, knee, something. You didn't know quite sure what it was for a second there. It's just like the reaction you're having.
Oh, buddy, I was an inch away from my screen trying to see if I could see anything roll up in the sock when they were given the replay. Then, okay, nothing moves in the calf. We're like, okay, Achilles is probably good. Let's watch the knee. Does it wobble? Like, no, not really. Okay, they tried really hard to figure out what's going on there. And like, you can't. So it was probably just, the previous injury combined with the way he landed on that foot. And then going back to the point, Andy's, loosest ankles in America. I got a challenge for him though. Friend of the program, Jordan Foote, made me buy some like the Team USA Nike men's slides. We got to get a pair to Pat and let him wear those because I tell you what, I roll my ankle every 3 steps in those things. Those things are the least stable shoe that has ever existed.
This segment's brought to you by Adidas. Anyways,
much better slides, let me tell you.
Yeah, by the time we were, trying to like go through process of elimination on what potential injuries it could be, he was already out and walking. He was just back in like, it didn't seem
they showed him being carried, and you're like, what? And then you get back to him, and then he's like walking aside, like, okay. Like at that point, I think everybody probably felt like he was going to be okay to come back in the game when they saw him walking no longer. But the fact that he needed like the assisted help across the field, that was an eyebrow raise.
That was definitely concerning, and you're just going through. Okay, so they're gonna, everything just kind of falls into place, right? Like you see your season flash before your eyes when something like that happens. But like honestly, it didn't seem like the injury affected him at all for the remainder of the game. And that was kind of interesting to me, is like you really didn't see that bother him. It didn't seem at all. And so, sweet. Like I'm not going to say they avoided injury. Huh?
They were running the ball a lot, but then like he comes back from the ankle injury, and all of a sudden they start doing a lot of under center run stuff, which if you remember, they did that in the Jags game after he got injured, and he could barely make some of the handoffs. Because like when you're under center, you're having to move a lot more than out of the shotgun. So I thought it was interesting that once again, like he's got this foot injury and the Chiefs go, okay, let's rely on the under center run game now and make him move as much as possible. And I think he fell down that one time, which they kind of showed it, and it seemed like it wasn't the same ankle. He just kind of tripped. It's just, I'm not saying that he was like, it was like labored or anything like that, but like you could just tell that like, okay, why are they making him run from under center on all these runs at this point in time if his ankle is hurting? Obviously, it wasn't a big deal. They wouldn't have. I thought it was funny because it was like a callback to the Jags game.
He pulled a run. He pulled a give and tried to run it on his own in the second half. Like he's
McCollum
fine.
played that great.
Like,
McCollum played that play great. They wanted to flip it out to McCollum. The corner played it great, and so he just had to pull it and slide. He clearly was fine. I was just laughing for a minute because we remember he had to hop around on one foot trying to hand the ball off in the Jags game when he got hurt because they went under center. So it's like, why are we doing this again?
Yeah. So hey, sounds like he's kind of okay. We really haven't spent much time at all talking about the Chief fence. Do we have any more breaks that we have to take, Tucker, or can we just keep rolling?
No, we don't necessarily have to take another one. I do want it to be pointed out that DeAndre Hopkins tweeted out a highlight video 2 minutes ago. So he had that thing ready to go. I appreciate that very much. I think, I don't want to call it too soon. He might be my favorite player. I think he is quickly turning into my favorite player on this Chiefs team, and Justin Watson is on this team.
I get it, man. Like Justin Watson revenge game. Second on the team, or third on the team in receiving yards today.
Had a game.
Hopkins is all over the socials, man.
It's awesome.
Oh, that was pretty delicious. We probably should talk a little bit about the defense, though, right? Like, this is we're doing a Ken episode, 34 minutes entirely on the offense. You want to talk a little bit about the defense here, Matthew?
Yes. I think this game is going to be thrown in the trash for the Chiefs defense. Not only because was it not good, but also I don't think what the Bucs did is something that a lot of teams are gonna do against them, because it's not like a real way to run an offense. You can't throw the ball in under like 2 seconds every single passing play and target wide receivers only twice until like your 2-minute drive and just throw 18 screens and 18 little tight end slide routes. Like I don't think what the Bucs did on offense is something that's going to translate to a lot of other games. So I don't know how much you can really learn from this other than the fact that, like, hey, maybe we figure out how to cover a screen pass a little bit better here, Chiefs second level and safeties.
I think that was definitely one thing that was giving them a little bit of issues was the screen game, and like they were close on a couple of them. But the other thing I thought like that the Bucs did a decent job of is like they really tried to get the run game going on the edge, right? Like they tried to, they gave some of those, little running back or receiver gives on the Jets and stuff like that. And like the Chiefs had some problems with those. Like those were giving them fits. They were forcing the linebackers to run sideline to sideline. The linebackers didn't have a great game today. Both against the screens and running sideline to sideline. So that was definitely a big struggle for this team during this game. But I mean, I think you're right. Like I don't know how much like Liam Cohen was in his bag trying to get something generated. They were having, they're trying their best to try to, move the chains a little bit, and they had some success. They put a couple drives together, and that was really what, that's what put the Chiefs in a bind there. And, I mean, outside of that, it seemed like they kind of had things in control for a while, and then like that 2-minute drive, I'm just stunned that 2-minute drive came together the way it did. They just kept peppering out routes like the entirety of the possession. It was great. Tucker,
yeah,
you have another quote.
Yeah, dude. This is from Rob Collins. He asked Coach Reed if he was surprised that the Bucs head coach Todd Bowles didn't go for it on 2 for the lead, and he said no. But I'm glad he didn't. And I think that's a very funny Andy Reid quote. Also, I should hit some housekeeping here. Andy Reid did acknowledge the injuries to McCole Hardman, his shoulder, Patrick Mahomes' ankle, George Karlaftis' hip, and Tershawn Horton's knee. They all came back into the game, though. And Reid says they came out, quote, relatively healthy in terms of how all those things work.
That's nice. A couple DeAndre Hopkins quotes. DeAndre Hopkins on the win. Words can't describe it. Been patient. A dream come true. My first win in a stadium like this on a team like this. Keep building momentum. Then playing with Mahomes. I've manifested this. I've seen it already. My mom and I knew this day would come. Those are quotes from Jason Anderson over at 810. His mom knew that he was going to play with Patrick Mahomes. I love it. Yeah. So, did George Karlaftis come back? He did come back into the game?
Yeah, he came back quick, and Tershawn Horton came back quick. So whatever they had wasn't serious at all. It's just like I have a really hard time pulling a lot from this game from the defensive side because I don't think that they were really attacked in a real way. Now, obviously, any team could come out with a similar game plan to what the Bucs did and try to take advantage, but who wants to build their entire game plan out of swing passes and like little, flat routes to your tight ends? Like that's just not a way that teams are going to come in trying to plan their defense. And I imagine that Spags will have a few more answers to that if it's something they start to see again in the future, now that they have an entire game script to see what that looks like when they go up against it. So I don't know how useful this is going to be to figure out what they are. I will say, though, you kind of mentioned it. This was the first game in a while that it felt like the Chiefs linebackers were like a problem. We kind of noted it early in the year. They didn't look great, but it seemed like they rounded into form, or at least they were being hidden in the rest of the defensive structure. This game, though, the linebackers, both Drew Tranquill and I think Nick Bolton, both looked just slow getting out to the flats at times. They looked really bad trying to pick up crossers when they did see him over the middle of the field. Drew had a couple plays. It just looks like he's kind of lost his quickness and his burst to close on stuff that's in front of him, and he's giving up extra yards and turning 2nd and 15s into 3rd and 3s that shouldn't be. So not the best showing, I think, on the second level of this Chiefs defense.
One positive thing I will mention on the defensive side of the ball, I thought Josh Uche, like his speed mattered. Like he was like getting to see his speed on the field, chasing down a play and forcing forcing a punt because he was able to chase down a 3rd down. And then I'm trying to think, also I want to give some credit to Felix Anudike-Uzomah doing the same thing on another play, just kind of chasing it down and keeping Baker from being able to extend the play for a first down on later in the game too. But I thought those were a couple positives from the defensive side of the ball. So like I thought Josh Uche had a nice showing. Oh, and by the way, almost blocked a punt too. So like
Leo almost did too. Like they almost.
Oh, was that Leo that almost blocked the second one? Yeah, they were close on that. maybe they don't kick to anyone next week. I don't know. After that, because that's the funny thing is like people were talking about the Bucs offense, and part of the reason the Bucs offense was able to generate some success is because of that short field. And yeah, I mean, like even without that, like that game might even look a little bit differently too. I do have a quote from Mahomes on his ankle. It scared me a little bit, but kind of calmed my breath, and we were able to go. That's from Harold Kuntz. So Mahomes was pretty worried about it too. Which
he was breathing heavy when being assisted across the field. Like he wasn't like panting. He was doing the deep, like I am trying to make this pain go anywhere else than where it is breathing.
Patrick Mahomes also says he already knows this ankle injury is not as severe as the one he had in the playoffs. Well, that's good. Gives the rest of the NFL a chance.
Did you see that he said that when Andy Reid said he was taking him out, he said, "I thought he was joking. We're not doing this again."
If that ankle injury was really bothering me, you couldn't tell though.
That's true.
Yeah, no, for sure. He came back good. Defensively, I had a few more. There was a few more positive. I thought George Karlaftis continued to be on a tear. Like he was excellent this game. Like Uche was really good, but they kind of sent him off at worst the whole time. And I think he was making worse work. Like, and it's hard to say because Baker was getting the ball out so quickly the majority of the game. You couldn't really get much pressure on him in this game because the ball was just getting out so fast. But Uche was making worse work off that left side, but then that was allowing Karlaftis to just kind of go to work opposite of him. And I thought he had a great start to this game, which continues a trend that he's had for the last few games. I thought the safeties, even when Hicks had to come in and play, were coming downhill. They were playing aggressive and fast, maybe to make up for some of the linebacker mishaps. So I thought that was, there was some bright spots there, but I did want to pose a question to you guys. From what you've seen out of the Chiefs cornerback room now, Joshua Williams probably didn't have his best game. Christian Roland Wallace didn't have a bad game, but I wouldn't say it's his best game. And with not knowing what you get out of Najee Johnson, do the Chiefs make a trade tomorrow on the trade deadline for a cornerback, or do they ride with what they have?
They need to make a cornerback move, I think.
No. They need to. What will they do, Kent?
I think there's 52 minutes left in a Marshawn Monday today. So maybe they should just they should call him up right this second, see if he wants to be a Kansas City Chief. Yeah, I think they're gonna make it. I think they're gonna make a small move at the cornerback position. And I think what they just saw at the offense tells them enough that like, yeah, like I think they might have been, maybe they're sniffing around the receiver room a little bit more. I think I'd prioritize corner. Adding another cornerback into the mix would be that'd be pretty sick. I think it's the right move.
I think in years past I would have said no. But I think that the Chiefs have proven this cycle that they are going to go all in to get the three-peat. And like that's with Joshua Uche, DeAndre Hopkins, obviously. I think that they have proven that they're going to do whatever it takes to leave no doubt that the front office is going to leave it all out there on the field, so to speak, on putting this team in the right position to win their third Super Bowl. And look, the Saints are a dumpster fire. Marshawn Lattimore is right there. I know that there's some cap stuff. I know there's some weird contract stuff, but I mean,
he's very tradable for it.
He's very tradable. But like other than that, Maddie, like the market is very slim pickings other than like Lattimore. They've already the Panthers have already said that they're not going to trade JC Horn, which I don't think the Chiefs would really be in for JC Horn considering the contract they'd have to give him and McDuffie. So it's really like Lattimore, I think, would really be it unless you can think of somebody else.
Greg Newsome from the Browns is a name that's been floated. I think ESPN had written an article when they were doing like their trade stuff. And I think even the trade thing for there was like a 5th round pick. So like that's not a bad one. Greg Newsome's had some flashes. This year has been a little step back from his first 3 years, but like he's been a good corner in the NFL.
Trey White, maybe?
Did he get waived or is he just been? No, they gave him permission. They gave him permission to seek a trade. Yeah, maybe. Jonathan Jones, if you want to go like the vet route for the Patriots, again, dumpster fire team. I think he's still like a starting level corner. I think, you're looking at a step down from those other guys. Like there's a few names out there for teams that had 2 losses going into this week or 2 wins and still have 2 wins coming out of this week. So there's some options out there. And like, I just don't love what I see from Joshua Williams. And like, that's what sticks me. And I know Najee Johnson was injured, so we didn't get to see a good look at him. It kind of stinks that you don't get to see a good look at him before the trade deadline. But like, what's the reliability factor there? You've only seen him in practice. And like at that point, like it's just, you don't know. But when Josh is out there, it seems like there's a lot of communication. That's kind of one way of safeties telling him what to do or what the play's about to be. And that makes me nervous that he is like a step away from being on the field for significant snaps again.
Yeah.
DeAndre Hopkins is so emotional about being a Kansas City Chief, you guys.
Well, here's the thing. He could have
I'm
been
sorry.
like 2 years ago, 2 off seasons ago.
And just, you should see, he is just
See
so
what he had
happy
to deal
to
with
be
in
here.
Tennessee and even in Arizona. His quarterback was playing double
That's a good
XP
point.
days on Call of Duty instead of trying to figure out how to get on the same page as him.
He deserves to be in Kansas City. I think DeAndre Hopkins deserves to be in Kansas City. For as long as he wants to be there, the Chiefs should be willing to have him.
He saw
Yeah.
it.
That was he definitely deserves this. I'm so happy for him. I'm happy he's here, man. Like I thought we should try to see him get a third touchdown in there. Like that would have just been, that
Oh,
would
the
have
back line of the end zone too, throwing it up to have him go get it was just like, oh yeah, I love that.
Is this the biggest midseason acquisition like impact we've ever seen from the Chiefs in
Well, the other ones are Kadarius Toney, Melvin Ingram, McCole Hardman,
Terrell Suggs.
He wasn't a trade, but yeah, that's fair.
You know what I'm saying? Like
Yeah.
I'm saying already. Like just if we
yeah.
stop
Yes.
today,
Yes.
like I know
If we
I
stop
think
the
if we
count.
stop the count, like right now.
We talked a lot about DeAndre Hopkins, and we haven't talked about the F it, Hopkins is down there somewhere play. Like, we still haven't even mentioned that one yet. No,
I'll roll the tape
will
on
say
that
this.
one.
I've said this. I've rewatched this play a couple times. This actually isn't like a bad throw from Mahomes. The decision to throw it into potential triple coverage is kind of rough. But the throw, when you see it from the end zone view, it's kind of like right on the money. It's kind of
perfect.
leading him. Yeah, it's kind of leading him downfield perfectly to where he needs to be in stride. So, like, it's maybe not a complete prayer, but my goodness, can you imagine any other Chiefs wide receiver? And you can throw Tyreek here. Who's the last Chiefs wide receiver that's making this play?
Justin Watson.
I'm sorry. I just
Keys to the penthouse, man. Everyone's key card can't go to the top of the penthouse.
I don't think his can't anymore either.
I'm
Fair.
sorry. Just the idea, the image of like so many other Sky Moore's down there somewhere.
Right. Just like, oh, can you imagine anybody else making that? Like, if it was Tyreek Hill, okay, he overruns it and then jumps back and like body catches it above everybody. Like, that's how it looks, right? But like anybody else, Sammy Watkins is your only other person. It's not like he was
So
known
Marcus
for contested
Robinson.
catches. No shot. No shot with the Chiefs. With the Rams, sure. But with
Yeah,
the Chiefs,
fair.
no way.
Oh man. I don't
Next
know
gen
why that made
stats.
me laugh.
Patrick Mahomes was his best on third down in his win over the Chiefs, 11 for 13 attempts, 126 yards, 3 tutties, 10 first downs, plus 8.3 completion percentage over expected. His 2 incompletions on third down came in the final 3 minutes of regulation. That obviously the drop to Samaje Perine that just like slipped right through his hands. I don't remember what the other drop was, but 34 of 44, 291 yards, 3 touchdowns, no picks for Patrick Mahomes. The curse is broken. The streak has been snapped. We're talking about one streak too much, the winning streak, but the interception streak is dead. So sad. So
Yeah,
sad.
but someone's gonna call that throw to DeAndre on 3rd and 8 a turnover-worthy throw.
It probably was true.
Like, we're gonna someone's gonna call it that.
That's a great stat that you read from Next Gen Stat. Or the tweet. So I appreciate you reading it again for everybody. I love that we got a live kinting of something that was read earlier on the show, though.
Yeah, no problem. I realized I thought it said 4 minutes ago. Definitely said 41 minutes ago. So as I was reading it, I don't know if you could tell. I was like, oh, this has already been read before.
We got a live kinting. That's good.
Yeah,
Oh.
it's all right.
Should we go to toast game?
Yeah.
No,
Hopkins flopping was great too. I love the flop.
we have some super chats we gotta talk about.
Okay.
Oh, let's go.
First one, Baja 07 Tucker is great. Thank you, Baja.
True.
Primetime Rambo. Worthy is going to need some time. He might not be ready to be a consistent contributor.
Wednesday.
Yeah,
Save it
we
for
wanted to
Wednesday.
avoid that. We wanted to avoid that, I think, a little bit for this. But yeah, I think it's a very good thing that Chiefs got DeAndre Hopkins so that there is like not that he plays the same role at all, but it takes a lot of pressure off not just Worthy to perform right away, but also the Chiefs to make Worthy be able to perform right away, because it feels like we are maybe a year away from seeing what he is going to completely do in this offense. That said, his speed still matters. You see it on the Travis Kelce play before where he almost get, or like on the overtime, I think it was, where they run Worthy downfield. He pulls all the coverage and it allows Travis Kelce to be wide open on the little like corner routes. Like his speed still matters, but yeah, I don't know how they can rely on him right now.
And they need to keep going back to him, and we'll talk more about that potentially on Wednesday or something. They need to keep involving him, and they need to keep letting him play through some of this because they are going to need him when it matters the most. But his speed is still a factor, and it still matters tremendously. They got to get him right. They got to get him, in a groove here. There's just 4 straight weeks, I think, of like a what if play, and that's just been kind of frustrating. And like those are starting to count and rack up too much. And so
2 today.
Yeah, mostly 1. Mostly the touchdown.
I still think he can get his feet in bounds, and the one that he didn't get his feet in bounds. Not the first one, the second one.
Oh, that's not a big what if. I'm just talking about, like, I think there's been big plays. Like, if he makes one guy miss last week on the hitch route, it is literally a touchdown.
Yeah. Listen, we're talking about it now anyway, so we might as well say it. It's not even so much like there's the mistakes that we're talking about, right? There's the mistakes that are being mentioned, but there's also the make a play factor that's completely gone. Even on the little screen today, Justin Watson didn't block great, right? But that's a play like that linebacker's getting pushed around you. You have a lot of space. Like you kind of should be able to make that guy miss. Tucker's right. Like it's a difficult play, but that second play where his feet don't get in bounds, it's not even they don't get in bounds. Like it doesn't even seem like the intent was entirely there to get the second foot in bounds. Right. It's just, it seems like when there is a chance to make a difficult play, he has not at this point been able to pull them off. And that's frustrating. Doesn't mean to give up on him. To Kent's point, that means you still go to him. It just doesn't feel like he is cashing the checks that are being written to him to go make a play. So yeah, I mean Patrick, let's go. But yeah, that's just,
I just saw another alternative view of Mahomes throws DeAndre Hopkins, so I'm just
right. That's what I'm saying. It's not a bad throw. The decision
is not a bad throw.
He's like running into like the who is it? Vita Vea he's running into.
That thing is literally perfect.
I know.
It is an absolute, just ridiculous.
I got one more super chat before we move on. This one's from Caleb Hawkeye. Might get crucified for this, but I'm glad the defense didn't bail out the offense, and we got to see what they can do when it matters. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
I think that entire second half, like there's a little bit of situational football, and like I don't love how the team manages their 4-minute offense because their 4-minute offense stalls out a lot. But man, putting those 3 dominant drives together and closing that thing out, watching Vita Vea and Kalijah Cansey and Levante David with their hand or their feet or their hands on their sides, just exhausted, just dragging.
I got one final stat before Toast game. Okay.
Did I read it?
Benjamin Solak. No.
Okay.
Oh, I saw this one. I didn't read it though.
Travis Kelce is the first 35-plus-year-old player with 14-plus catches in a game at any position. And the funny part was this started with him looking at it for like specifics. It started with him looking at looking for 35-plus-year-old tight ends with at least 14 receptions, and he found that. And then now he goes deeper. He's the first 35-year-old player in the NFL with 14 or more catches in a game.
Suck it, Jerry Rice.
Our king.
Toast game
for 100 yards.
Enjoying a little soft red wheat KCSN Foundation barrel pick here tonight, as we always are on Toast Game. 8-0, 8 of these bad boys. Tucker, who you got for Toast Game?
Well, look, there's a lot of different directions you can go, obviously. Chiefs playing unk ball, as Matty mentioned. You got 35-year-olds catching all kinds of passes. You got old running backs. You got old wide receivers. You got a quarterback that was probably the best fantasy quarterback in 2017. You got a team that could be a really good 2017 fantasy team. If you guys had these guys in there, you'd have a lot. But there's one guy out there, 28-year-old, might be considered a little bit older for a room, who had a little bit of a personal sauce in this game. A guy who was from Bridgeville, Pennsylvania, 3-time Ivy League, first team all Ivy League, 3-time Super Bowl champion. He had the opportunity to go out and stick it to his former team, and they didn't want him when he was a free agent. They didn't want him back when he was a free agent. But you know who does want him? Who does want Justin Watson is the Kansas City Chiefs. He goes out there, 3 catches, 43 yards, 14.3 yards per catch. I'm raising a glass to my guy, Justin Watson, for his revenge game against the Bucs. Cheers.
Would you like to go, Kit?
Just do good health next time.
No, I loved that, Tuck.
That was great, Tuck.
I did a lot of research.
Also,
but I
good
don't know if
health
you
of
can tell.
everyone. Great good health for everybody that kind of got hurt in this game.
Good health as well. Double twofer for me tonight. I too get 2 free.
I just wanna toast to Todd Bowles for not going for 2 and not even considering going for 2 at the end of that, at the end of regulation. Gave us a chance to see a pretty epic drive from the Kansas City Chiefs. And their quarterback didn't touch the ball the rest of the game. Chiefs win the football game. Shout out Todd Bowles for that tremendous decision at the end of the game. Appreciate you, 8-0. Thank you. Gift baskets on the way.
Whew. All right. Well, I got a couple. First one, Adidas for being the superior footwear to save Patrick Mahomes' ankles compared to Nike. That's a good start. So we're starting one.
Yep. Sure. Yep.
Oh, okay.
We gave a whole segment to him, but I think it's worth doing it again because he was that darn good. DeAndre Hopkins gets another one. And you know what? This one can just be for all of his comments post-game. Like, really. This is more just post-game comments.
I love how much DeAndre Hopkins loves being a Chief.
And finally, McCole Hardman gets banged up on a good punt return, comes back in the game. I don't want to say it was like pivotal what he did, but he provided stuff for the team. He picks up a 3rd down on a play where he's stumbling. I also think they used a little bit more McCole Hardman in the second half to kind of like calm down Worthy, who wasn't having the best game up until that point. They said, hey, these guys are a little interchangeable. We can use Hardman for some of this stuff that we'd use Worthy. So I think that's just a nice little change up to have. And he was still out there playing big snaps for this team, making big plays. So toast game to McCole, who always seems to play good snaps for this team.
All right. Well, I think that's enough toast games for 11:23
12
Central Standard Time on a Monday night. That is going to do it for this episode of the KCSN Post Game Show. Thank you so much for listening, watching, supporting. We love you. We appreciate you. We'll catch you later.
Only we're getting
Dogs, a shout out interior offensive line.
Sorry, Matty.
Pay Trey.
You're good. Yes, please.